Welcome back to Erin Makes Designs, where today I'm going to show you for May 4th, Star Wars Day, this very simple Grogu, Baby Yoda, the child, 22-pin circular knitting machine pattern. Right, what you will need is you need a 22-pin circular knitting machine, some sort of green yarn. I'm using Caron's Simply Soft, a worsted Aran weight yarn, scissors, marker or paint to do the detailing on your Grogu, a set of straight pins, safety eyes. These ones are a 12mm. You can use felt or whatever type of eye you want, a darning needle, and something to fill with. Today I'm going to be using yarn scraps. Right, let's get started. Right, let's cast on. A common problem that 22-pin circular knitting machines have is the cast on and the first couple of rows. I'll show you, you'll see what I do. To combat that, I have made a video and I'll link that in the description where you can see I go over exactly what I'm doing and why I think it happens. So, you'll see me doing this for the first few rows. You'll need enough yarn to knit 46 rows. We're making 3 tubes. 1 tube, 30 rows, and another tube, 2 more tubes, 8 rows each. So once I've stopped my yarn from snagging, I will get going. So this first tube is going to be my long one. It is going to be 30 rows in length. I've now made 30 rows. I am going to cast off. Place that one to the side, and now I'm going to make 2 more tubes, 8 rows each, and these are going to be for the ears. And that's our final tube. So we had 3 tubes, 1 30 rows long and 2 8 rows long each. Now let's get on with the construction. Okay, let's take our first tube and make it into a ball. I do that by making a little hat. Bring one tail through to the other. See the hat shape? Give that a tug. Give the other tail a good tug. Tie them into a knot. Nice tight knot. And then cut them. And you have your hat. Turn it right side out. You can place your fingers on the inside and pull down around the top, and this will help to smooth out the puckering that can happen. Mark out a column of stitches. Now that you've marked out your center column, you are going to place your eyes 2 columns to either side of that, and they will be 8 rows down from the top. Before I put my backing on, I'm going to do the same on the other side. And again, approximately 8 rows down. The most important thing is that this is symmetrical. So you want to check that the eyes, and this one seems to be a bit further down, so I'm just going to move that up. When I'm happy with that, I'm going to press my backings on. And I'll hope they go on easily. Perfect. There we go. And now I can fill my head and put my drawstring on. And I'm using my leftover scraps for this. Just going to have a look to see how that looks. Good. Now I'm going to create a drawstring to close this opening. To do that, I'm going to pick up every other leg of each stitch around that opening. And I'm going to make my way all the way around. Now, what I find is when I close my work, the drawstring slips. What I do to combat that is I go back around, this time picking up every other one of these stitches. So I'll go through the first, leave the second, go through the third, leave the fourth, pick up the fifth, I am back at the end. Now, to prevent this drawstring from puckering when I pull it, I'm going to pull each end of the yarn to close. There we go. Pull that tightly, and it doesn't slip, and tie a knot. And I'm going to hide my tails in my work. And there we are. We have the head. Next, I'm going to move on to the ears. This is really simple. I'm just going to make sure that one opening is nice and tightly closed. So I'll just take my thread through another time, give it a tug, weave that in a bit, just go back and forth so it doesn't close on me, pardon me, so it doesn't open. Right, that's nice and tight. I'm going to move on to the other side, make sure that opening is closed tightly. Again, just bring my needle through a couple times, give a good tug, bring it back through, those top stitches. Now, take that tube and fold it in half so that you have a nice column of stitches here and a nice column of stitches there that you are going to mattress stitch together. It's important when mattress stitching that you stick to the same column so that you don't get pulling of your work. To mattress stitch, I'm going to bring this needle up and out the first stitch of the column. Going to come across to the other column, and I'm going to pick up the bar that lies between the two legs of the stitch. Come back to the first column, and I'm going to make my way back and forth. Some people like to pick up 2 bars at a time. You can do that. It's obviously faster, but I find this way makes sure that I don't miss a stitch and I don't create a puckering in my work. Once you reach the end of your stitches, just pull the thread to bring your sides together. And there now we have the beginning of the ear. Pinch your ear together, and this is where we create that little point that Grogu has at the edges of the tips of his ears. So I'm going to pinch that together, and then I'm just going to stitch back and forth, but hiding my stitches. So I will go between, well, let's just say I'm going to hide my sewing. I'm going to go between each stitch so that my yarn crosses over the bars. It doesn't cross over the legs. If you cross over the bars, it will be hidden. But if you cross over the legs, you will see your sewing. Just go back and forth a few times. Just to pinch that in. Go. And when you are happy with the point to the ear, bring your tail through to the other tail. Tie it off. And again, hide your tails. in the work. And there you have your ear. Put that aside, and we'll do the same now with the other ear. Okay, now that I have both my ears done, I'm going to pin them either side of my head. I like to pin my work. This makes sure that I can see what it's going to look like. It's nice and even, and I'm happy with the placement of all the pieces. I'm going to use the outer edge of the eye as a guide, and I am going to count over 3 columns. And it is this column that I am going to stitch my ears to. So that is where I will pin the ears down. If I stick to this column when sewing, then it'll look very neat when I'm finished and tidy. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to count over 3 columns and pin the ear there. And before I start sewing, I'm going to check to make sure I'm happy with that. There we go. Let's see. I think that's good. I'm going to pick up one of my tails and use that to sew. And I'm going to start at the front to make sure that I'm following that column of stitches. And I will be picking up the bars between each leg. And sewing it to the legs of the stitches on the ears. And I will pick up the bars of the stitch in the column. And I will sew it to the legs of the stitch on the ear. Sorry, all of this is in the way. And again, I'll pick up the bars. And I will pick up the legs. I'm going to take the pin out now because I don't need it. Give that a pull. And now I will make my way around to the back of the ear. And I'm going to be using this column now to stitch the back of the ear. And I will do the same as I did on the front. I will move from the bars of this column to the legs on the ear. Now, I've heard some people complain about when people make tutorials that they talk too much. So in this tutorial, I've tried not to natter away. Could you just let me know in the comments if people talking in tutorials bothers you, or if you're all right with it? For me, it feels a bit strange having all this silence, because I don't mind when people are talking, but I'd really love to know what you would like from me. And don't worry, make sure no one comes at anyone in the comments, because I've asked. Here we go. And I've made my way all the way around. bring that up. And bring it out where the original tail was. Tie them in a knot. And again, hide the tails in the work. Give a nice tug so you can't tell it was even there. And look how neatly, I feel quite proud of that, how neatly that is stitched to the column, and the same on the back. Right, now let's do the same thing on the other side. There we go. We have the head with the ears. And now this is where I'm going to use my marker, and I'm going to color inside the ears. You can use watercolor paints. If you have pieces of felt you want to glue in there, it's up to you. But I had my Sharpie available. It's a pink one. I'll color both inside of my ears. Now, if you know the Star Wars Mandalorian series, like I do, my family and I, we love watching it. Absolutely love it. I have to say I enjoy it more than the Star Wars series. Anyway, just my opinion. You will know that Grogu has got pink all over his face to show all of his shadows. So it's up to you if you want to do that. I'm just putting some little cheeks onto Grogu, just below his eyes, just to have a little more detail. It's up to you. You can do more, you can do less. You don't have to do it at all. It's up to you. And the last thing we need to do is to stitch a little nose on for Grogu. You don't need a great big long thread for this. I'm going to bring my needle in from the back of the head, and I am going to find that center column of stitches that I had marked out in the beginning. And just between the eyes, I'm going to loop, not too tightly, back and forth to create, so that's a bit too tight and it's pulling that stitch and doesn't look very neat. Just going to make Grogu a little nose. I'm going to do 3 stitches. Pull that first one a bit tighter. There we go. And I will come out to meet the tail at the back. And again, if you find that pulled this too tight, you can take your darning needle and get underneath the loops and pull them out to be how you like them to be. And so to make sure that doesn't happen again, I'm going to gently tie these knots. I'm not going to pull them too tightly. And I'm going to hide my tails in my work. And again, when I do this, it likely will pull those loops at the front, so I'll just want to go back and tidy that up. What is going on? And again, I'm just going to use my darning needle to make sure I'm happy with how the nose looks. And there we go. We have our Grogu, the child, Baby Yoda, made on our 22-pin circular knitting machine. Really simple and easy. And if you like, you can make yourself a chain, connect it to the top of the head, and you have an ornament or a keychain. But I quite like them just like this to sit on my shelf. I hope you enjoyed that.